Alright, so I'm just gonna give my thoughts on what's called productivity guilt, or rest guilt, or leisure guilt, or time guilt, which is basically this obsessive compulsive need to be productive, even if one is in a situation where they reasonably can't be productive without the snowflake sort of like overdoing it of I'm helpless. Where it's like you're chafing and you're chomping at the bit to be productive, but there's barriers, and you're like, they're reasonable barriers. Like, for instance, I can't have a job because, first off, I'm a little schizo. Secondly, before I was schizo, I had like a degree of autism that made it very difficult to work in a normal job. Even before that, I could deliver newspapers easily, and I love doing that for like 3.5 hours, 6 days a week. So getting about 20 hours or half time in for like a quarter of the wages. Um, like that was actually something I enjoyed doing, and I made enough money where I could do okay and be comfortable. So I love doing that. I would do it again if I could reasonably do it, but I also have a bit of a criminal record, and for regular jobs, the fact is the province I'm in Canada pays foreigners wages for the business, so they hire the foreigners over the native locals. And on top of that, there's so much competition that they like actually require for like burger flipping, like a college graduate degree. So like I've got like 5 layers that make it impossible for me to get a real normal job, all at the same time essentially. But I could theoretically do newspapers. The only problem is I live so close to Crime Central that I don't feel safe at night or in the early morning when I would be delivering the papers. And I know that at least one person has all the nearby routes um, for the papers I can like do around myself basically already. And they've been doing it for a while, so like they're stable, so I can't really replace them. So basically, I'm stuck on welfare, unable to be conventionally productive, and so on. And I really miss having a job, essentially. It gave me a sense of purpose. And it gave me some extra spending money and stuff like that so I could be extra comfortable. And exercise and routine that allowed me to be tired and feel like I've done something because I actually have. Get a little bit of money so I can get better games and more of them, and then spend my leisure time basically playing video games or like researching concepts or something like that, which I'll get into in the next bit. Now, essentially, what I've done is I am intellectual by nature, being a little autistic, slightly. Like if I hit my right leg, then I'll have to hit my left leg next, and then hit it again, and then hit my right leg again after that, and then I'll like reverse the order and do the pattern again. So I'm very like I've got this like OCD sort of pattern based stimulation kind of thing going on um, in me to some extent, and so on. And what bothers me is that I have roughly a 130 to 140 IQ, but I can't manage menial tasks that well. So I'm a very like high concepts brained individual, like an idiot savant slightly, where it's like you're brilliant at one particular thing and then you like suck at everything else or something. It's kind of what I'm like in a way, except that it's a little less like it's not Rain Man, but it's kind of like in that direction slightly. Um, you know, and I spend my time thinking about the structure of the universe and the world and our relationship with it, like how our psychology and politics and culture and stuff like that, and like philosophy and stuff like that, and faith, Christian faith, the last 3 to 4 years now, intensely, you know, and like when I was working the paper routes and living a relatively normal life, I could get by with just doing it sort of as a hobby. But now it's like the only thing possibly productive that I can do, and I'm obsessed with it. And I message some people with ideas and stuff, and like hope they pick up on them and use them and stuff, or like figure out their own version of it and then use it. I'm on the lookout for those particular people and so on. But I don't get any like 100% confirmation they used it. So it's a very iffy kind of productivity. It's like I don't know if I'm actually productive or not. And it's really frustrating because like if I knew it was productive, then I could actually relax. But I don't even have like a positive like they actually used the idea at all or they got it from me at all kind of situation where it's like, am I wasting my time even when trying to be productive? You know, and it's kind of uncomfortable. And I hate the idea of being useless. Like, I'm a man. I want to do useful things, you know? I can't enjoy leisure unless I feel like I've done something useful and I'm, like, cuckolded out of, like, any feeling of being actually useful for sure. Like, even just the paper routes would make me feel useful enough delivering, like, 60 to 80 to 100 newspapers a day, 6 days a week. You know, would make me feel like that's good work and solid, even if it's like relatively small. But I'm getting a relatively small wage if I do that. Like I'm getting like a quarter of the pay for half the hours and so on of minimum wage. So it's not like I'm like over earning for my work. I'm sort of like kind of almost making it up a little bit for being on disability welfare. And that's what makes me feel good. That's why I like to do it. Because it gives me a little bit more money than I would have on disability alone. But I'm like earning less than minimum wage. So I feel like the work, even though it's kind of small in a way, at market value for the paper routes, is actually getting me like sort of making up for lost work capacity a little bit, sort of, because I'm like the disability welfare feels, well, it's not earned, but like if I'm working a little bit and I'm getting paid less than the minimum wage, then I'm sort of like making up for it slightly apart, and I feel like useful, even if it's just delivering papers, because it is physical labor, you know, to walk for like 3.5 hours a day carrying 30 papers at any given time. Or 40 papers at any given time, you know. And working and doing like 20 hours of it a week is still way better than not doing anything. And I know the people want it because it's subscription papers. So it's like I'm actually doing like an actual like desired service in some sense. Yeah. And I'm starving for that. But I don't want to be unsafe in the mornings or nighttime, and I can't get a regular job, and even if I could get one, I probably couldn't hold it very easily due to a range of factors that have only compounded over the years. Both situationally and personally, you know. I sort of feel like one of the people I messaged a couple days ago might have taken, or it's a very big coincidence, that they've basically come to, roughly speaking, a similar position to me in a video. So I'm kind of sort of willing to give myself permission to relax today and like play video games and be comfortable. But, like, I was thinking about the general situation. It's like, if I'm not, like... Because being 130 to 140 IQ and relatively hyper-competent in one domain is, like... it's like your gift and you want to share it with the world, but if you can't figure out how to, then it's kind of wasted, is what it feels like, you know? And I don't know if my giftedness in that domain, in like those politics, culture, faith, philosophy, psychology kind of thing, metaphysics, is like actually taken seriously. But I think it might have been today. So that's actually kind of heartening in a way. And like these people have bigger channels and stuff like that. So like, like they're doing their thing, and if I'm helping them, then I'm working through them for free, basically, to resolve societal issues potentially if we win, and then life will be better for more people on a level that if I was just doing a minimum wage job, I could not actually contribute to my society on that level if I was just doing a minimum wage job and being normal-ish, you know. So it's kind of like a really addictive almost kind of situation where I'm like trying to do my best because that's the only thing I can do, but it's potentially a jackpot for being productive for society or helping society out and contributing to society and its well-being in sort of like the meta or the multiplier aspect to the baseline of civilization to make it better than it would be normally. So it's like a really rewarding situation almost if I'm actually useful, but I don't have any positive confirmation that I am useful in that direction. Like, I don't know if one of the people used my ideas or if they came to it completely separately from other people or themselves. It's kind of up in the air and it's kind of frustrating. But and basically it's kind of like being Cassandra from the Trojan War in the Iliad or something, where like Cassandra is like this fortune teller or oracle or like prophet or seer who knows the future, but no one believes her. So like everything happens that she predicted and warned about all the time. She's cursed that no one will listen to her, even though she knows exactly what she's talking about. And like that's what I'm afraid of, because I don't have positive confirmation, like rock solid positive confirmation. And it's led me down some paths of like megalomania or something in a way, and like kind of like hyper. I don't want to call it entirely narcissistic, but like there's an element of it, self-aggrandizement sort of, where it's like I'm like kind of guarding against the black void of I'm not productive with like I'm actually super productive maybe secretly. And it's not exactly like 100% wrong that I might be actually kind of secretly productive in a way that other people would only dream of in a way, but it's not guaranteed. It's possible. And that's what gets to me. It's tantalizing. So it's like a loot box system of productivity and like having a purpose. And like I would actually much rather that I was like at least partially constructive, because like back in the day, 9 years ago basically or something, I was doing this, and I was doing the paper routes, and I was doing leisure time, and I was updating my priors and so on, so to speak, learning about the world and like world views and all those philosophy, psychology, faith, and metaphysics kind of stuff, politics, strategy, tactics, warfare, kind of all those things and so on. I was learning about those things. I was teaching about those things, I think. I was playing video games and I was doing my newspaper routes, and it was like a really balanced situation where I didn't feel like I needed to do anything except show up for the paper routes. But like anything was a bonus. And now it's all I have is the bonus. And it's like sporadic even if I'm really helpful when I'm helpful. And I don't know if I'm helpful at all. And it's absolutely miserable in a way because it's so tantalizing the possibility I'm productive. And the fact that this is my only route makes me like obsess about it. And because I don't have a definite productive thing, I like can't let myself relax and play video games much. And it's like there's a certain logic to it where it's like, okay, well, if you can't be productive and you've got the excuses, then just play video games and enjoy life, and it's not your responsibility. But I have this mental giftedness in certain domains where it's like I should be hyper productive, you know, but I don't have positive confirmation that I am, so I just keep trying, hoping that I can pay my debt to society for being on disability and welfare, essentially. It's maddening. And like, I've never been someone to like just accept my lot in life, more or less. Like, I've always been a striver in some fashion. And it's like partly upbringing, but it's also partly like my just biology, psychology, my neurology essentially, where it's like I'm like always pushing limits and so on and boundaries of like possibility as much as I can. And like as I've gotten older, the physical part of it's diminished, but the intellectual part's actually increased for these things. So it's like, okay, and like you could argue that, I should be satisfied maybe by personal cultivation so that if I get the chance, or I'm more likely to get the chance because I've got the mental structures and capacity down for a chance to expand my horizons of possibility, that's a thing. But like politics, culture, philosophy, psychology, faith, Christian faith, tactics, strategy, metaphysics is like, it's not a it's sort of a support structure mentally. It's not a direct practical kind of situation that everyone can use. It's more of a sort of like how to up your game in the when you're done the basics, sort of. And people are always learning basics, but the meta level stuff, meta meaning something like above somehow or beyond or something like that, or on top of or something, is like if I had positive confirmation that I'm helpful in this way, then I would actually relax, because like I would know I'm useful in some level, but like how do I put it? It's like being an artist on a project, like a painting or something, and you don't even know if anyone enjoyed it. You just display it. And like I don't get a lot of views on my YouTube channel here, so it's like, sometimes someone watches it, or like what I've noticed from the YouTube analytics is that it's like a 10-second view or something like that. It's like really disappointing in some way. I'm not sure exactly what I'm doing wrong. It might be the blank screen, basically. So like that's like a thing I might as well work on, and maybe I'll do like images or memes or something, and like show them to produce higher quality content in display and production value or something. But like at the moment I'm very disappointed with my reach, because I've made like 200 videos and like they've gotten like 5 views at most per video, which is kind of like frustrating. And I don't want to bitch too hard because I know that it's probably a me problem in some sense, but I feel like my topics are valuable, and that maybe the only problem is my presentation or something. You know, like, yeah. You know, and like my gaming streams, I only did a couple of them sort of recently, but like, they're getting like 0 to 1 views basically. So the live streams are kind of off a little bit in some ways. It's just frustrating. I don't want to complain like it's the world's fault or something, but it's like it's really frustrating that I can't seem to figure out how to do this properly for success. It's disappointing because like I think I have things that are very valuable to say, or at least for some people, and maybe they can like break it down if it's too high-minded or esoteric or something or out there, you know, and then like they can spread it to other people, you know, in like a way that they can understand. Because like one of the things I learned is that 130 to 140 IQ has problems with 100 to 110 IQ and communicating with those people and making things make sense to them. There's like a fundamental sort of like way of viewing the world and relating to things and about things and so on between like 30 IQ gaps that makes it almost impossible to communicate or talk with as opposed to past. You know. And it's sort of like you have to dumb yourself down sort of to be able to do it, but it's really stressful and hard work and like really intense on the brain to like figure out how to talk to someone with a lower IQ by 30 points. And I am going to say that IQ does mean you're a bit smarter in some way, but like not every way necessarily. So it's not like I'm a better plumber than someone who's 100 IQ. I'm actually a worse plumber. You know, and plumbing is like actually useful practically. You know, it's a good skill to have. So I'm not saying I'm like objectively better in every way just because I have a higher IQ. It just means I can understand these abstract and kind of spacey and out there kind of ideas more easily than someone else, and with a higher resolution or more detailed picture, so to speak, and so on. You know, but they can get the basics down pretty good usually. Yeah. So it's like, yeah, and how important really is these things for anyone who's just living day to day, basically, you know. But then again, maybe this is the higher virtues of wisdom kind of thing, and I'm just really good at it, and other people are less good at it. But like, maybe this is the way that I can be productive and contribute and help and give to my society by refiguring out what the ancients knew in some ways, with a couple updates to details and maybe certain limited pattern changes to the flow chart of the ideas and worldview, you know, for the midwits or the 120 IQs, and then they can talk to the 100 IQs, and then they can talk to the 80 IQs, and maybe I'm like actually a pioneer of like social development and like wisdom and virtue in theory while I'm doing this. And I guess what I'll do is I'll console myself or comfort myself with the idea that I am putting these thoughts out there, so if someone's interested, they can learn from it, and I'm doing a good job of detailing out the parts of it and how they kind of relate and function and work together. as far as I can tell. I mean, I'm doing a pretty good job. I've thought about it pretty hard, and I've got some experience in doing good work and like a balanced life that I lost, and so on. And I have a high personal ability for high-minded concepts. And I have a history of hard work, physically and mentally. You know, and like I'm 40. I'm 40 years old, and like 6 years ago, about a year after I stopped doing newspapers for 10 years or 11 years. It's like, sorry, stopped doing newspapers after 10 or 11 years. I took a year in between, and then starting the next year for about a month, I basically worked as hard as possible and then just failed. Like I would literally like I'm not lazy minded, and I hate the idea of being lazy. But like I would work myself to the point where like I was hyperventilating because I was like my arms were like burning and like limp. Like I could barely stand up. And like I was like breathing hard for like half an hour because I was putting so much effort in and so out of breath. And it's like I wasn't, and that was when I was like homeless and I was doing the day labor stuff. But like I just wasn't good at it, you know? Like I just fundamentally the normal organization and executive functioning kind of decision making for practical things was like I was lame at it. And I've always been lame at it. That's why newspapers are good for me, because they're like I can actually figure them out. And it's really simple. Put paper in mail slot or in mailbox or at front door on the welcome mat. And just do that. And basically the rest was memorizing which of the 100 was what for those things. And then it was pretty stable and very habitual and like routine and like all that stuff. Just same thing day to day basically. Except the occasional update. Maybe someone goes on vacation so doesn't need the paper that week, or like someone starts or someone stops. But like it's roughly the same throughout like 3 or 4 years of doing 100 papers a day. Yeah. So like I don't want to be hard on myself in theory, but like I have a hard charging sort of like wild stallion desire to be productive and like work hard and so on. And eat good because I got more money to eat good and so on. It's just frustrating. What can I say? I have a high IQ. You'd think I could reach people and explain things to them in a way that they go, that's brilliant, I'm going to use it. But like, no one does that. And like, it just feels like like, if it weren't, okay. I do want to become like famous and rich a little bit. So like I might kind of fall to self-aggrandizement if I were to get positive reinforcement, like you gave me this great idea for this and I'm using it, thank you. I might brag that like some super important guy was like telling me I gave them something really useful. But like part of me is like also like kind of maybe not, like I'm not sure. I'm not actually sure about it. Because, like, I mean, if I were helpful, I'd be like, oh, that's awesome. I'm actually useful. And I would feel, like, kind of satisfied that I could just live my life. And, like, even if I never become famous myself, at least I'm like helping someone else win at life, essentially, and like helping, and they're helping other people win at life. You know, and then like I'd be like, okay, I'm doing a great job, and I'm in God's favor, and He's happy with me, and if this is all I get, that's still pretty damn good. You know, like if I got some recognition from the people I'm trying to contact and so on, it would actually feel a lot better. But the risk is that I get into self-aggrandizement and egotism because they give me positive attention in regards to my helpfulness. You know, and I might be the kind of person who can't handle fame and fortune without letting it go to their head. And maybe they're making that calculation, even if I am helpful a lot, that it would destroy me essentially, because I had a mental breakdown and was mentally unhinged for a long time, and a midlife crisis, and like a total worldview collapse, and like other stuff, and like yeah, it's a real possibility. So like I'm not gonna begrudge them if I'm helping them, and they don't give me like official concrete "you helped me" kind of recognition. But part of me wishes I had it, right? Like I'm not going to be like angry at them if they don't give it, and I am helping them. But like I'm kind of wishing that they would like give me some recognition if I was helpful. You know. And then I could even if it was just private recognition, then I might be like, okay, I'm actually being useful when I want to be. Good. You know, and then I'd be motivated more. Kind of like, out of, to like play video games or something and relax and refresh and like sort of reset between work projects on ideas for helping our civilization and society and so on. Whereas right now it's constant burnout, studies, grind set because I don't know if I'm actually helpful at all. It's kind of weird that way, you know. But this video itself is actually an attempt to describe this sort of mindset of a wannabe high achiever while also describing the problems of disability in some ways when they're combined. Someone who doesn't want to sink into, well, I can't help it, so I'm just going to live with it. But rather sort of like, I have to break my limit. Limit break kind of mentality of me and so on. You know, while being unable to figure out if I'm actually doing it or not. Kind of blind to my own usefulness if I am useful. And this video is an attempt to reach out to someone and basically give them the inside details of it and like the conflict and the frustrations and so on of it, and then describe the situation. And what I will say is this is probably how Gen Z feels a lot of the time, because the bar is set artificially against the Gen Z white men, whereas the other people are taking it for granted and like not being productive because they don't have the WASP culture or the Protestant work ethic, while also being like given everything. You know what I mean? And like, stress is important, but so is success. You don't want constant struggle with no success, and you don't want total success without a struggle. You want to earn good things, but you want to have good things that you earned. You know what I mean? And it's like, part of the problems of today's system and society is that it privileges people based on identities and not merit, while also suppressing those who want to make their identity based on some sort of merit. or maybe that's the wrong way to put it, but whose identity is tied to being meritorious or virtuous. So it's privileging the ungrateful and lazy and suppressing the virtuous and work and the productive, basically. And that's why our society is poorer than it needs to be. And also why like crime and stuff's up, and why things suck, and why it's unsafe out, and so on. It's like all tied together. And I'm describing, I guess, a common Gen Z thing here in my personal life as a millennial, with my unique situation relative to the average even. But mine's an exaggerated version in my domains of expertise or competence, of what they're feeling practically versus my intellectually, or something like that. And universities do the same thing too, so it's not just the day-to-day workers, it's like the students as well, for university or college or something. Anyways, I just tacked that on at the end because I just realized it. But this started as a sort of complaining kind of personal situation kind of video, and then I kind of realized, oh yeah, Gen Z and millennials feel the same way. Yeah. We're not given the right opportunities to be our best selves and enjoy the fruits of our labor and be fruitful. And the left always talks about it like they're doing it, but they're doing it with the people who don't give a damn about being productive in reality, And it's it's all part of this backwards sort of favor the weakest at the expense of the strongest in that area or something kind of mentality, where work ethic is haram or banned, but virtue signaling is rewarded. It's upside down, topsy-turvy society and economy and so on. And crime is up. And we're all poor. And everyone feels lost. And purposeless. And miserable. And it's just what are we doing to ourselves? And part of my efforts with metaphysics, philosophy, psychology, Christian faith, politics, strategy, tactics, history, maybe a little bit in the past, is to give the high-level answers to our problems and descriptions of our problems so that other people can come up with high-level answers and then work it down through the IQ chart from the top tier to the bottom tier in a way that everyone can jive with, to argue for everything being right side up again. Yeah.